Hello everyone, and welcome to the Kitchener Conestoga federal election debate. My name is Angie Hallman, and I'm proud to serve as the community producer and your moderator for today's debate. First, I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to all of the candidates for taking the time to participate and share their vision with the voters in our community. I'd also like to thank Rogers TV for providing the platform and to continuing to support our civic engagement through accessible local broadcasting. We're looking forward to a respectful, informative discussion on the issues that matter most to the residents of Kitchener-Conestoga. Let's get started. Each candidate will be given 1 minute to introduce yourself. I will rotate through the candidates and will have the opportunity to speak first on questions. We all can see the same clock. Watch for timing. I will only interrupt you if you go over, and your time if you report attacks on a property or on a party versus sharing your party sees things differently. As you see, the Conservative candidate is not here. An empty podium has been placed to acknowledge his candidacy. Let's get started. Maya, you're here representing the NDP party. I'm going to give you 1 minute. Please start.
Thank you, Angie. Hi, everyone. My name is Maya Bozrikzad, and I'm running to represent Kitchener-Conestoga because this is a community that is my home. I'm a lawyer and a small business owner, and I've built my career around advocacy. I've seen firsthand the challenges people in our community are facing, from rising costs to an economy that's increasingly leaving people behind. I'm not a career politician. I'm a regular person who has worked hard in our community and understands what it means to struggle and for us to need to step up. I believe we need change that puts regular people first, whether it's affordable housing, healthcare, or making sure everyone has a fair shot at success. I want to be a voice for the people of Kitchener-Conestoga and work towards a future where everyone has the opportunity to succeed, no matter where you're starting from. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Kevin, you're here joining us today representing Kitchener-Conestoga with the PPC party.
I am. Thank you. Hello, my name is Kevin Dupuis, and I am the People's Party of Canada candidate for Kitchener-Conestoga. I'm running because Canadians are tired of the two-party system. The PPC is different. We stand for less government, lower taxes, and putting Canadians first. A PPC government will balance the budget in year one by cutting wasteful spending, eliminating corporate welfare, foreign aid, and media subsidies, while protecting essential social programs for those who truly need them. We will also cut taxes, support Canadian businesses, and strengthen our national defense. Under the Liberal and Conservative leadership, inflation has soared, freedoms have been restricted, and Canada's sovereignty is under threat. The PPC is the only party willing to take the challenge and challenge the status quo and fight for a stronger, freer Canada. My name is Kevin Dupuis, and I stand with the People's Party of Canada.
Tim, welcome to the debate today. I'll give you 1 minute representing the Liberal Party today.
Thank you, Angie. Tim Lewis. I live in Forest Heights with my family, and I'm honored to be here today. As your member of Parliament, I've fought for this community, delivering over $200 million here in Kitchener-Conestoga. I've sat at kitchen tables, walked through farmers' fields, listened in places of worship, and worked alongside volunteers in our community. I've celebrated with you, and I've mourned with you. And I believe that real leadership is not just about politics, it's about people. I've worked across party lines to get things done because that's what Canadians expect. And I don't shy away from tough conversations. Listening, understanding, and working together is how we build a better future. I'm running for re-election here in Kitchener-Conestoga. Together, we can keep delivering for our community and for Canada.
Thank you. We're going to start with our questions. The first one is going to be on economy and affordability. Kevin, we'll be starting with you first. In Kitchener-Conestoga, the provincial minimum wage is currently $16.50 per hour, and the federal minimum wage is $17.75 per hour. How will your party tackle inflation while ensuring wages keep us with the cost of living?
Well, balancing the budget will be done immediately. We will eliminate corporate welfare, cut foreign aid, and stop wasteful spending. We plan to lower taxes for Canadians and businesses. After balancing the budget, we will cut personal income taxes. So the economy, we want to also end inflationary money printing. So our economy is right now being driven by under an awful lot of inflation. We wish to reduce the government spending or government interference in businesses, and we want to boost domestic industry and energy production. So all these things are going to affect our economy. We're hoping to take a stand on immigration as well. We want to put a moratorium on immigration so that Canada can catch up with the infrastructure that is required. And the PPC will put forward money for that infrastructure. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Tim, how will your party tackle inflation while ensuring wages keep up with the cost of living?
Yes. Affordability is a pressing issue that affects everyone in our community, from housing costs to everyday expenses. All levels of government have to work together to find solutions that support families and individuals struggling to make ends meet. And the situation is only going to get worse if President Trump's tariffs push the Canadian and global economy into recession. To make life more affordable, we've already implemented Canada Dental Plan, which will be expanded in May to all ages, pharmacare, affordable childcare, and national school food program as well. And Mark Carney has already repealed the federal carbon tax, bringing gas prices down. So if re-elected, we're going to implement a tax cut on the lowest tax bracket, eliminate GST for first-time home builders of homes under $1 million. In short, our approach is clear: targeted tax relief, lower costs, and practical solutions that support Canadian families.
Maya.
Thank you. You know, affordability is the #1 thing that I'm hearing on the doorsteps speaking with folks, and it's for good reason. Our wages haven't kept up with skyrocketing cost of housing, groceries, everything, all our essentials. And people are working harder than ever and still falling behind, and that's something we're really committed to as New Democrats. We believe in raising the federal minimum wage, supporting unionization, and investing in programs that give people breathing room, like $10 a day childcare, like expanding pharmacare, expanding dental care. We're going to go after corporate greed and price gouging by the grocery giants. It's time to really start putting people before profits, and that's something that the New Democrats are really committed to and fighting. And it's unfortunately something that we haven't seen from decades of liberal and conservative governments.
Tim, we'll start with you this time. We're staying on the topic of economy and affordability. Small businesses are struggling with high costs and labor shortages. What measures will your party implement to support them?
Right. Our party is the one that's been there through a pandemic. We made sure that people had a roof over their heads, that had food on the tables, and that businesses were supported. We've already cut the small business taxes, and we're going to continue to support businesses. Targeted investments, lowering their taxes, making sure it's more affordable. Basically growing the economy by letting businesses drive the economy, especially small businesses. In our region, small businesses are the backbone of what drives our economy. So when I talk to small businesses, they want to make sure that they have a partner in our federal government, and we'll continue to be there for them.
Maya.
Thank you. I agree that small businesses are the heart of our local economy. Create jobs, they support families, and they really bring life to our main streets and our rural communities. I know firsthand as a small business owner that small business owners work hard, and the challenges that they face are immense, from rising costs to unfair competition from large corporations. As your MP, I would fight to ensure local businesses have the tools that they need to grow and thrive. That means access to low-interest loans, funds, grants to help with everything from hiring to training, digitizing operations. I'm also a big advocate for improving our infrastructure and broadband connectivity to make sure that our rural communities aren't being left behind and that no business is left behind either. I'll also support procurement policies that prioritize local suppliers, keeping more money circulating right here in Kitchener-Conestoga.
Kevin.
Small businesses are the backbone of the Canadian economy, but they're struggling under excessive taxes, regulations, and government interference. The PPC will cut corporate taxes to allow businesses to invest and grow. We will reduce the red tape by eliminating unnecessary regulations. We're going to end subsidies to big corporations that put small businesses at a disadvantage. We're going to also stop government overreach like excessive COVID lockdowns that have destroyed thousands of businesses when the other large corporations were allowed to prosper. So this is one of the things that sets the PPC apart. We want the small business entrepreneurs to exceed and to thrive. By giving businesses more freedom, instead of burdening them with bureaucracy, we will create more jobs and prosperity for Canadians.
Well, we'll start with you for this question. Many Canadians are struggling with the rising cost of living, and income tax policies play a major role in financial stability. What is your party's plan to ensure a fair and sustainable tax system that supports middle and lower income Canadians while maintaining essential public services?
Thank you. That's such an important question. Canada's tax system is increasingly regressive. The richest in our country pay less tax than middle income earners, and we want to be the party that puts more money in the hands of lower and middle income in Canadians. There's a lot of talk about tax cuts that the parties have proposed. I'd like to point out that the NDP's tax cut proposal is the most progressive and stands to benefit more Canadians than the Liberal and Conservative policies. The NDP plan benefits everyone except the richest 1%, those are those making over $350,000 a year. The NDP plan will put more money in people's pockets across the board as opposed to the tax breaks proposed by the other parties. Analysts have shown that the Conservative and Liberal tax breaks are similar and hand the largest benefit to the richest in our country, once again showing where their priorities lie. We will make sure that the very wealthy pay more so that we can invest in services that you and your family need.
Kevin.
High taxes are crippling families and businesses. The PPC will eliminate the carbon tax immediately, saving Canadians money on gas, groceries, and heating. We're going to lower personal income taxes and corporate taxes after the deficit is eliminated. We're going to reduce capital gains tax, encouraging investment through economic growth. And we're going to end tax credits that benefit special interest groups and instead of offer across-the-board tax relief. Canadians deserve to keep more of their hard-earned money and not to fund a bloated government. Thank you.
Tim.
Thank you. Mark Carney brings a new vision for the Canadian economy. He has the economic credentials needed at this time of crisis. His plan is one of fiscal discipline and strategic investments. Balancing fiscal responsibility with investments will drive economic growth and support Canadians. The focus is on spending less and investing more. And while we're doing this, we're going to make sure that our vision will protect EI, will protect child benefits, protect dental care, protect pharmacare, protect pensions. We're not the party that's going to cut those things. The new Canadian economy will focus on investments that create good jobs, raise incomes, and boost productivity. We're going to reduce reliance on U.S. trade, and we're going to rein in wasteful spending and streamline government operations. I believe that Mark Carney brings the experience and the stability that Canada needs right now.
Thank you. Our next question will start with you. Kevin, sorry. Start with you, Kevin. Collectively, Conestoga College, University of Waterloo, and Wilfrid Laurier contribute to a vibrant student population in the region. As of November 2022, there are approximately 78,000 full-time post-secondary students enrolled at these schools. Regarding federal student loan policies, the Government of Canada administers the Canadian Student Loans Program, which provides financial assistance to eligible post-secondary students across the country, including those in Kitchener-Conestoga area. What will your party do to help Canadian students from low and middle income backgrounds who want to pursue post-secondary education?
That is a good question. And what the PPC is willing to do is actually bring your tax bracket down. We want to eliminate the taxes that are stifling these Canadian families from moving forward and getting a better education. We also want to make it easier for students to come into trade style employment, job opportunities. To be honest with you, we don't have a laid out education program as such. It is something that we will be working on, but we will be doing everything we can in order to make sure that students are able to receive a proper education, and that we'll stop there.
Thank you. Tim.
While post-secondary education is mostly under the realm of provincial, there is a federal funding, federal component to it, and we do federal programs, funding programs for post-secondary students in schools in Canada. We've removed the interest, the federal interest on student loans, and said that students don't have to pay it back until they get a job, which is only fair. We've also increased our student grants and loans to students, and we're working to continue to support the research councils and the development they do. We want to make sure that when people go to school here, get a degree, they can pursue post-secondary and then start jobs here, which is going to drive the economy. We know that education is a key to a bright future, and cost should not be a barrier to that.
Maya.
Thank you. I firmly believe that every young person should have the opportunity to pursue post-secondary education if that's something that they want to do without being buried in debt. But right now, students are graduating with crushing loans. I know that personally myself, or choosing not to pursue post-secondary education because of the financial ruin they fear they will be under. The New Democrats, we believe in eliminating interest on the federal student loans permanently and working with post-secondary education systems to make them tuition-free, starting by targeting low and middle income students. We'll also expand grants instead of loans, support Indigenous learners, with dedicated funding, and increase affordability for housing and transit near campuses. Education is a public good, not a luxury, and we'll treat it just like that.
Thank you. We're going to move on to housing crisis, and we're starting with you, Tim. Many Canadians, especially young people, feel homeownership is out of the reach. What is your party's solution to the housing affordability crisis?
Thanks. We want our children to have the same opportunities that we did. Students and renters are looking for affordable housing that allows them to save money each month after they pay their rent. Families want to own a place where their kids can grow up. And seniors want to downside and stay in the communities that they love. So we're going to implement Canada's most ambitious housing plan since the Second World War. We're going to be building homes while partnering with workers and industry and cutting taxes for home buyers at the same time. We're creating the Build Canada Homes Plan to build affordable houses at scale. We're going to provide affordable loans to affordable home builders addressing homelessness and building supportive housing. Making the housing market work better, we're going to help cut municipal development charges in half for multi-unit residential housing. And we're eliminating the GST for first-time home buyers on homes under $1 million. Locally, I'm proud that I was able to deliver over $56 million in federal funding for housing right here in Kitchener Conestoga.
Maya.
This is such an important question here in Kitchener Conestoga. I think we all know the housing market has been treated like a playground for speculators and corporate landlords, and that's driven up prices and it's pushed people out. And unfair practices like rent evictions and unjust rent hikes are to blame, as well as a government that has failed to build enough affordable housing to house the population, which has also worsened supply. The NDP, we're going to rewrite the rules to prioritize people over profits for once. We're going to ban corporate landlords from buying existing affordable rentals. We're going to put in place a national rent control to prevent to ban fixed-term leases, rent evictions, and demevictions, and ban rent price fixing and landlord collusion. For those that are looking to get into the market, we're going to offer long-term, low-interest mortgages to make home ownership more accessible, and we'll make sure that housing is a right and that everyone in Kitchener-Conestoga has a safe and affordable place to call home.
Thank you. We're moving on to healthcare. Oh, sorry. Kevin, I am terribly sorry.
No.
Please.
The PPC is, we plan on reducing the immigration levels, which is one of the reasons why we see so much inflation in the prices of houses. Canada's housing market is overwhelmed due to excessive demand. The PPC will implement a temporary moratorium on immigration to allow housing supply to catch up. We're going to end foreign ownership and speculation. We will ban foreign investors from buying residential property to prevent wealthy non-residents from inflating the prices. We're going to cut red tape on home building. The federal government contributes to housing shortages by funding cities that restrict development. We will stop subsidizing municipalities and impose zoning laws and regulations preventing new homes from being built. We're going to end corporate welfare and reduce government spending. Reckless government spending fuels inflation, which drives up housing prices. The PPC will balance the budget and stop printing money, making life more affordable for Canadians. And we'll allow Canadians to keep more of their money by cutting income taxes and eliminating capital gains so that we'll have more purchasing power. Thank you.
Thank you. I am again so sorry about that, Kevin. Starting with you, Maya. How will your party work to reduce wait times and improve access to healthcare services across Canada? Please also comment on if your party supports internationally trained healthcare providers.
Thank you. You know, our public healthcare system is something we're so proud of as Canadians, and rightfully so. It kind of enforces those ideas of caring for each other and making sure no one's left behind. But the healthcare system is under immense pressure, and it does need long-term solutions from the federal government. We absolutely support recognizing foreign trained doctors and making it easier for them to be able to practice in Canada. We need to remove any sort of barriers that exist for our doctors to be able to practice within Canada as well. Right now they're paying a great deal of fees and paperwork has to be filed to be able to practice. In doing so, we're going to allow doctors to go where they're needed, including our rural communities. We also need to make sure that we close the gap by 2030 by increasing the transfers to the provinces by 1% above current projected increases, as well as an incentive.
Thank you. Kevin.
Decentralized healthcare. We want to decentralize healthcare by allowing provinces more flexibility to experiment with private sector involvement, along with public healthcare. We want to encourage competition in healthcare services, increase healthcare funding by eliminating wasteful federal spending on foreign aid, corporate and media subsidies. We also want to address the issue with doctors and nurse shortages. During the COVID years, we have not hired back the doctors and nurses that should have been brought back. And so we look at bringing those people back on so that they can fulfill their roles as healthcare practitioners. We will also encourage competition. We will let provinces experiment with these new models. The government monopoly in healthcare is failing. And we also want to introduce more alternative healthcare. Thank you.
Tim.
Thanks. Protecting and strengthening Canada's healthcare system is crucial to ensure that all Canadians have access to high-quality public healthcare. The system faces significant challenges, including a shortage of doctors and healthcare workers, provincial underinvestments, and rising healthcare costs. We've implemented and will continue to build on a foreign credential recognition program, which addresses the lack of doctors to streamline the accreditation process for internationally trained physicians. We're supporting medical and education training programs to help streamline and modernize their processes to train doctors and nurses here faster. We strengthen the healthcare transfers, and we're making sure they're put on conditions that the money we give to the provinces goes to healthcare. And this includes a recent $2 billion top-up to help reduce backlogs. So in addition to that, we've already said that the Canada Dental Care, pharmacare, and mental health supports are all part of healthcare. So these are part of the broader commitment to improve healthcare, specifically in smaller communities like our townships in Kitchener-Conestoga.
Kevin, we'll be starting with you. Women's rights, including access to healthcare, safety from gender-based violence, and economic equality, continue to be pressing issues in Canada. What concrete actions will your party take to protect and advance women's human rights, and how will you ensure accountability in implementing these measures?
Well, that is an interesting question, and one that I don't have an answer written down for, but Maxime Bernier wants to make sure that all Canadians are treated equally. And so any advancements that we have for males, for foreigners, it is all going to be the same. We want everyone to excel in Canada's economy. There shouldn't be limitations on any of the issues that surround gender, sex, sexual preference, gender ideology. Everything should be treated equally and fair. Our four main pillars are freedom, respect, fairness, and responsibility. So we as a government would have a responsibility to make sure that everyone is treated fair. We want everyone to ensure their freedoms and to be treated fairly and with respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim.
Thank you. For women's equality, we could start with equal pay for equal work done. As a member of the Liberal Women's Caucus, a male ally, we have these discussions, and they're important discussions, and we're at the table making sure that women's rights are being heard. Reproductive rights, women's right to choose. Liberal Party will always support a women's right to choose. We need more studies on women's health care. Right now, most of the research is on men. So, and we need to make sure that women's healthcare is more forefront in the ground. I just want to make sure that my daughter has the same opportunities that my son has, and that's the way we're going to approach things.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this is a really important issue, and I think it's important to note the work that the New Democrats have done in expanding healthcare to date. You know, we were the ones that fought for and brought dental care. We brought forth pharmacare, which now allows access to free birth control. These are systems that we really believe in. We believe in expanding our public healthcare system, and that's going to benefit women as well. That is, like, access to abortions, making sure the funding to clinics exists, that the tools and education that is required in our communities remains and is strengthened. It also means, you know, tackling the concept of sexual assault in our communities, making sure that we're strengthening our laws and enforcement when it comes to that. We're increasing support, funding for support services. So, you know, women's issues, it's not a personal one, it's a systemic one, and we definitely need to make sure that we're expanding our healthcare system so that women aren't left behind.
Thank you. We're going to be moving on to the topic of climate change and energy. And we'll be starting with you, Tim. What concrete actions will your party take to meet Canada's climate targets and transition to a greener economy?
We know that we have to grow our economy while protecting the environment, and our party has proven that we can do both at the same time. No government has done more to fight climate change. Canada's emissions right now are the lowest they've been in 27 years, excluding the pandemic years. We know there's more to do, and we have to make sure all Canadians are on board working together. The carbon tax has become a divisive policy, and so as one of his first decisions, Prime Minister Mark Carney canceled the consumer carbon tax. And in its place, we're going to create a system of incentives to support Canadians to make greener choices, such as purchasing energy-efficient appliances or electric vehicles, improved home insulation or electric heat pumps. I'm proud of the funding investments that I've delivered for Kitchener Conestoga in clean energy and in green infrastructure for our municipalities, our libraries, our recreation complexes, our farms, our homeowners. We're building resilience against extreme weather while saving money and also protecting the environment. And on the low-tech side, I enjoy planting trees with Let's Tree Wilmot and Trees for Woolwich.
Thanks, Tim. Maya.
You know, I think climate change needs to be taken much more seriously, and not just with words, but with action. Under the Liberals, we have had the worst record on climate change in the G7 and more funding for oil and gas than any other country in the G20. The NDP has a powerful plan to fight the crisis and ensure a healthy future for everyone. We're going to end the consumer carbon tax for good and instead put the onus on the big polluters. We're going to end subsidies to the most profitable oil and gas companies and take that money and put it in people's pockets by making their homes more efficient. We've launched a plan to retrofit millions of homes and making it more affordable, and have made it more affordable to buy zero-emission vehicles. You know, I do think we all have a role to play when it comes to climate change, but it's increasingly unfair that big polluters are being let off the hook, and it's coming down to regular Canadians having to make changes. We need to course correct and reprioritize immediately.
Thanks, Maya. Kevin.
Thank you. Canada contributes only about 1.5% of global emissions Yet our industries and our workers suffer the most from extreme climate policies. The PPC rejects alarmist climate policies that are destroying our economy. Canada has some of the cleanest factories out there. I used to work for Inco. We eliminated 98.2% of the particulate coming out of our smokestacks. I've been over to Indonesia, I've been to China, and I see what they're polluting into the environment. It takes about 2 days for the air to come over to Vancouver, and then on another 3 days, 4 days to get to Ontario here. We still get all that, the fallout from all of those emissions. So when we transfer all of all of our industries over to China and to these other places, we are not doing Canada a favor. So our plan is to bring back where we actually have climate control on all of our industries. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. We'll start with, I think we're starting with I'm lost now. Maya, here we go. Thanks, guys. Do you support further investments in renewable energy, and what is your stance on new oil and gas projects?
This is such a great question because I do think we need to invest in our economy and make sure we're using the natural resources that we have. But I think more importantly, we need to make sure that we're doing so responsibly. So whereas we can continue doing those things and follow the same patterns that we have been, wouldn't it be smarter and more forward-thinking to start investing in clean technology and bring Canada into the future as opposed to keeping us stuck in the past? I think, climate change is real, and we need to be thinking about it really seriously, and continuing to do the same things that we have done for decades isn't going to help us meet any of our climate responsibilities, and isn't going to leave a cleaner Canada for generations to come.
The PPC believes in energy independence and in ending reliance on foreign oil. Instead of shutting down pipelines and raising costs, the PPC will support the development of oil, gas, and nuclear energy to ensure affordable, reliable power for all Canadians. We're going to end subsidies for unreliable green energy projects that drive up electricity prices. We're going to build more pipelines to allow Canadian oil and gas to transport more effectively and safely. We're going to remove unnecessary regulations that slow down energy projects and drive investment away. Canada has some of the cleanest energy production in the world. It makes no sense to import oil from dictatorships while killing Canadian jobs. Thank you.
Tim.
As I mentioned before, our government knows that we can grow our economy and protect the environment at the same time. I do support the federal government sitting down with provinces and territories to discuss a plan of how to grow our energy sector, both the oil and gas and green energy. There's room for both, and we need to do that. We need to build our energy infrastructure to become more independent and more self-reliant. And while we do that, some people will say that important legislation like Bill C-69, which requires major projects to have environmental reviews and assessments, should be repealed. But I disagree. Legislation like C-69 will safeguard our environment, making sure that the development we do is sustainable. So we'll not lose sight of our obligation to protect that environment while ensuring our long-term competitiveness of Canada's energy sector, now and into the future.
Thank you. We'll start with you, Kevin. With increasing urban expansions and industrial development, Canada is losing valuable farmland at an alarming rate. What specific policies will your party implement to protect agricultural land and ensure Canadian food sovereignty?
Well, you hit me with another question that I'm not prepared for. But I do support the fight for farmland in our new Hamburg community. I've been out to a number of the rallies and done what we can. I know all the politicians have, and so kudos to them. What is happening right now with the grabbing of grade A farmland is it doesn't make any sense. No one will own up to the responsibility. We want to make sure that there's transparency within all of our communications. again, this is something between the Ontario government and the region of Waterloo, but we do feel that it is a very unfair disadvantage for the farmers that are losing their property. And we will do everything in order to make sure that that kind of thing does not happen. Thank you.
Tim.
Prime farmland is disappearing at an alarming rate. About 319 acres daily is being lost in Ontario. And once it's gone, you don't get it back. Economic development is important. We all know that, but it has to be done responsibly and it has to be done transparently. The issue that we're talking about, the land, the 770 acres of farmland there are uncertainties with water, wastewater concerns, the site meeting only part of the criteria for an industrial mega site. The project contradicts previous regional planning. It lacks the required infrastructure, and it poses a potential threat to adjacent water aquifers. We haven't had any public meetings and discussions, and I think that's what's missing right now. I sit on the Agriculture Committee. I've put forward a motion to study farmland protection, and I've actually drafted a bill called the Canada Farmland Protection Act to create a national farm work to protect our farmland. So farmers feed our cities, and we need to support our farmers.
Maya.
Thank you. You know, I think we all know that food is at the heart of our homes, of our communities, and our economy. And we know that food sovereignty is sovereignty at a time when our sovereignty is being questioned. And we need to remember that in protecting our country and our farmers from the threats from the municipalities and province, but also from Donald Trump. And so I am committed to supporting and fighting for farming families. I think it's our responsibility as federal representatives to amplify the voices of farmers in their efforts to protect the farmland and their property rights right here in Kitchener-Conestoga. But I think even looking past that, we need to look at ways that we can assist them in growing even further. You know, we need to help them, we need to diversify markets for Canadian agricultural exports to reduce our reliance on the U.S. We need to improve infrastructure needed to expand sales into overseas markets. We have to protect supply management. So, you know, I will always stand with farmers and amplify the voices of those here in Kitchener-Conestoga, and it's a fight that I'm committed to bringing in Ottawa.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the topic of Indigenous reconciliation. We'll be starting the next one with Tim. What does reconciliation mean to you? And what steps will your party take to advance meaningful reconciliation with Indigenous peoples?
It's an important question, and it's one that will never fully be answered because there's always more work to do. A partnership with First Nations is important. I've been consistent in supporting and respecting the rights of First Nations and Indigenous peoples in Canada. Mark Carney's first official trip as Prime Minister was to Nunavut to meet the Premier and First Nations leaders, which demonstrates our continuation of the party's record of working toward building a stronger nation-to-nation relationships. I'm also proud that we have an Indigenous Supreme Court Justice and Indigenous Governor General, because if you can see it, you can be it. But reconciliation is an ongoing journey, and one that I am privileged to have conversations locally with Elder Nina from the Wilmot Family Resource Center, discussions and meetings with the Wilmot Ecumenical Working Group, Crow Shield Lodge here in our region, Anishinaabe Outreach Center for Indigenous Healing of 7 Generations. All those conversations help me to bring voices together and know that that more is better, more is possible.
Maya.
I think reconciliation with Indigenous communities has to be more than just words. It has to be met with meaningful action and a commitment to justice, to healing and equity. Indigenous Canadians have, generation after generation, been led down by successive Liberal and Conservative governments. And to me, you know, real leadership means ensuring Indigenous communities have the resources that they need to thrive. You know, it's the very basics at this point: clean drinking water, proper housing, healthcare, mental health supports, economic opportunities. Those are things that we're still letting the Indigenous peoples down on. It also means ending the fight against Indigenous children in court and fully implementing Jordan's Principle. In our riding, I commit to working closely with Indigenous leaders and community members to listen, to learn, and advocate for the changes that are needed.
The Indigenous issue is brought up at every election, and it's something that gets bantered around, and I've spoken with many Indigenous leaders. that it is something that it's a great talking point, but nothing ever happens. The PPC is committed to a practical reconciliation that empowers Indigenous communities through economic development, education, and healthcare. We believe in working with Indigenous people to create opportunities, respect their rights over their land and resources, and support initiatives to promote self-governance. We do wish to abolish or replace the paternalistic Indian Act that keeps Indigenous people in a state of dependency on government issues. We also want to explore on-reserve property rights. We had a candidate last time that was running, and he said, Kevin, I want what you've got. I want to be able to own a house. On the reserve, they're not. And if they fix up their houses, they could be subjected to give those houses to someone else that is more friendly with the chief. So those are some of the issues that exist on the reserve.
Thanks,
Thank
Kevin.
You.
We're going to be moving on to the topic of flooding, and we're going to start with Maya. The federal government plays a crucial role in flood prevention and response, primarily by coordinating with and supporting provincial, territorial, and local efforts to mitigate, prepare for, respond to, and recover from flood emergencies. How would your government address rising concerns about emergency management, such as the threats of flooding that Kitchener-Conestoga residents face every spring along the Nith and Grand River watershed?
You know, I think it's clear that the climate crisis has made extreme weather more and more unlikely and more destructive in our communities. We definitely need to be ready. New Democrats, we believe in strengthening Canada's emergency response system by investing in local infrastructure and preparedness plans that protect our communities before disaster strikes. That means better coordination between all levels of government, funding for local emergency services, and importantly, making sure our rural and remote communities have the tools and communications they need to get the help when it's needed. Importantly, we also want to make sure we're supporting the workers on the front lines. So, you know, firefighters, first responders with equipment, training, and mental health supports that they deserve.
Kevin.
Flooding, as you said, it's an issue that happens most years within the Kitchener Waterloo area. It is something that we have to take seriously. We should be putting pressure upon our regional government in order so that they get their preparedness plans in place, because this does happen every year. There are controls that can happen with allowing and stopping water movement throughout the area. So those things must be put in place. The PPC will do what it can in order to help those regional governments make sure that those things are put in place so that they have the resources that they require. Okay, thank you.
Tim.
Whether it's the Nith or Grand Rivers or anywhere throughout Kitchener-Conestoga, extreme weather, including flooding, it affects our homes, it affects families, it affects our lives and our farms. We have federal funding for floodplain mapping, and also we're giving funding to strengthen preparedness in our communities. There are two ways to approach it. One is mitigation, disaster mitigation. There's funding available and for disaster mitigation. There's also funding for disaster relief. And at the local level, something I'm very proud of is to work and hear from our volunteer firefighters in our small communities, in the townships. They're volunteer firefighters. I advocated for and got a $6,000 tax credit for our volunteer firefighters who are putting their lives in danger to make sure that we're safe.
We're going to be moving on to foreign policy and defense, and we'll be starting with Kevin. Given rising global tensions, what is your party's approach to defense spending, and Canada's role in NATO?
Canada's military is underfunded and under-equipped and undervalued. The PPC will invest in modernizing our military, ensuring our armed forces have the latest technology, weapons, and training. We're going to strengthen our Arctic sovereignty, ensuring that Canada, not foreign powers like China or Russia, control our northern borders. We're going to withdraw from unnecessary foreign military interventions, focusing our military resources on protecting Canada and its interests. We want to improve recruitment and retention in the armed forces, offering better support for veterans and active duty personnel. Our priority is to rebuild Canada's defense capabilities, and we are prepared for any type of threat. we also plan on, we support strong alliances with that Canada should not be involved with unnecessary policy and conflicts. Sorry.
Great. Thank you. Tim.
Thank you. President Trump has launched an economic war on the world, including Canada. And this trade war has brought concerns about our very sovereignty, as well as economic prosperity and our national security. So we plan to rebuild, reinvent, and rearm the Canadian Armed Forces. We're going to build new submarines and icebreakers to defend the North and to expand our Navy. And we're fully committed to our national shipbuilding strategy, which is going to use Canadian steel and Canadian aluminum. And we're going to fill the Canadian Armed Forces shortages, giving all CAF members a well-deserved raise, building new on-base housing, and improving access to doctors, mental health services, and to childcare. We want to make sure that we're taking care of the people that protect our nation.
Maya.
I believe Canada's defense policy should be about protecting our sovereignty, supporting the brave men and women who serve, and also ensuring that they have the equipment and resources they need, not just while they're in uniform, but when they return to civilian life. For too long, successive governments have neglected our military, leaving those who serve with very outdated equipment, inadequate housing, insufficient support. We need to modernize our military with made-in-Canada solutions, made-in-Canada equipment that will bring our forces into the 21st century, and making sure that they have what they need to defend our country in the best way possible. At the same time, we need to make sure we're investing in better housing on military bases so that service members and their families have stable, secure places to live. And when they return home, let's make sure that they aren't left to struggle alone. That means stronger mental health services, that means job transition programs, and community support to ensure that they can thrive after service.
Thank you. I believe we're starting with you, Tim. With recent U.S. tariffs affecting Canadian industries, what priorities would you urge the federal government to take to protect Canadian businesses, workers, and consumers?
The U.S. tariffs have upended the global economy, and they're putting Canadian workers and businesses and the families that they support at risk. And here in our region, we're on the front line of this trade war. I've been meeting with farmers, with auto workers, with business owners, and I sense and know their anxiety and uncertainty. We're all feeling that. The region of Waterloo has multiple vulnerable sectors: our auto, our food processing, our manufacturer, and aerospace, all going to be affected. Waterloo region is actually the fourth most vulnerable economic area in the country. Our comprehensive plan is built on three strategies: counter tariffs, that every dollar raised from those counter tariffs will go directly to affected workers and companies; direct support for our workers, including a $2 billion strategic response fund to protect jobs and to support workers; and we're going to waive the 1-week EI waiting period, as well as making Canada's economy more resilient by building a trade diversification corridor fund. So the old relationship we had with the U.S. is over. It's an opportunity to Canada to come through this even stronger.
Thanks, Tim. Moving on to you, Maya.
Thank you. You know, Trump's unprecedented attacks on Canada has families and workers worried about job losses, about being able to pay the mortgage or rent and keep putting food on the table at a time when we're already struggling to do so. And as Tim mentioned, this is a particular concern in Waterloo region, as we are ranked fourth in terms of potential vulnerability due to our manufacturing, due to our tech. And the NDP is going to fight for a more resilient economy that will put working people first instead of billionaires for once. We are going to invest in a massive new job-creating public infrastructure program that will require Canadian-made materials. This will keep people working, and it's also going to leave our communities better off with roads, with bridges, hospitals, whatever is needed. We're going to also step in and preserve good jobs, rescue manufacturing capacity, and help businesses find alternatives to layoffs as we start to focus on new markets. New Democrats, we're always going to stand with working families and ensure that we can weather this storm together. As Canadians, we will come out the other side stronger than ever.
Kevin.
The PPC believes that we should be negotiating with Mr. Trump. Canada and China right now are the only ones that are fighting. Every other country is in negotiations, and that's why Trump has given a 10%, he's put a moratorium, or he's paused the tariffs on these other countries. So, and it's a great plan on Trump's behalf, because what he is doing is he's renegotiating all of his free trade deals immediately. He doesn't have to wait for these trade deals to come back and wait for another 3 years, 4 years until they expire. He wants them done now. So, and he's protecting U.S. interests. We should be doing the same. We should be entering into negotiations. These originally came out as fentanyl crisis, where fentanyl tariffs, I believe Mark Carney has said something to the effect, we need to take a look at what is coming across the border. Okay, thank you.
We've now arrived at our last question. We'll be starting with you, Maya. What's your party's stance on Canada's foreign policy toward conflicts such as the war in Ukraine and wars in the Middle East?
Let's talk about the most important one, in my opinion. You know, there's a genocide happening in Gaza, and it's what I'm hearing from a lot of voters across Kitchener-Waterloo. I've gotten so many emails on this issue. You know, there is a genocide occurring, and Canada needs to do more in terms of protecting the Palestinian people that are being affected by this. In terms of that, I am in complete support of all the demands of the Vote Palestine platform. I promise to uphold all my legal and moral obligations when it comes to what you expect every representative in supporting the demands of the platform in the House of Commons. You know, that does mean imposing a two-way arms embargo, ending the Canada's involvement with illegal Israeli settlements, and addressing anti-Palestinian racism and protecting freedom of expression on Palestine. You know, I think in general, peace cannot come without justice, and justice cannot exist without acknowledging the suffering that is going around all around the world.
Thank you. Kevin.
The PPC believes that Canada should be interested in what affects Canadians. The Ukraine war, so far, Canada has given, I believe it was $19 billion, and then $19 billion so far in foreign aid. And then we've also, I think before Trudeau left, he added another $5 billion onto it. We want to reduce that to nothing. The reason is it is not being effective. We don't know what happens with the money after the fact. It is money that has just gone out. Our veterans were asking for more money, but Trudeau told them that we just don't have enough money. But we've got $24 billion that we can give to Ukraine. That money would have gone very well and helped out our veterans. We think that we should be taking care of Canadians first, and that's the PPC stand on it. Thank you.
Thanks. And Tim.
Thank you. First, I recognize that there is a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Our party's position is a call for ceasefire, for Hamas to release all hostages and lay down their arms, for Israel and Hamas to negotiate in good faith to reach a sustainable and lasting ceasefire. And personally, I voted in favor of the motion recognizing the Palestinian state, and I personally support the Palestinian pledge recognizing Palestinian state as a part of a two-state solution, a two-way arms embargo on Canadian weapons exports, funding humanitarian relief for the 2 million civilians, mostly women and children, desperate need in Gaza, and addressing Islamophobia and anti-Semitism here in Canada. We need to work together throughout the world to create that lasting peace. Switching over to Ukraine, I know that we remain committed to supporting Ukraine, recognizing their independence and sovereignty, and I'm so proud of the community here in our region for taking in Ukrainians, opening their homes, opening their hearts.
Thank you, everyone. We've now arrived to the portion where you're going to do your closing statements. I'll start with you, Kevin.
Tonight, you've heard a lot of promises from politicians and political parties who've let you down before. The truth is, Canada needs real change, not more of the same. The People's Party of Canada is the only committed party to less government, lower taxes, and putting Canadians first. We will balance the budget, cut wasteful spending, protect your freedoms, and restore prosperity to our country. The Liberals and Conservatives had led us into inflation, division, and government overreach. Our rights and freedoms have been trampled on. It's time to break free from the status quo. A vote for the PPC is a vote for real solutions, real accountability, and a stronger, freer Canada. My name is Kevin Dupuis, and I'm asking for your support to fight for a bright future for your family and your generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tim.
This election, the stakes are high. Canada is facing pressing challenges: economic instability worldwide, affordability issues, and growing threats to our sovereignty. Some say Canada is broken, but I don't believe that for a second. Canada is strong not because of our size, but because of who we are. We work hard, we stand up for what's right, and we look out for each other. As your Member of Parliament for Kitchener-Conestoga, I have fought for this community, for better jobs, for local businesses, for investments that make a real difference. And I'm not done yet. This election, we can't let fear and division hold us back. Together, we can build a strong future together for everyone. I'm Tim Lewis, and I'm asking for your support for re-election on April 28th.
Thanks, Tim. Maya.
This election is about a simple question. Who's in it for you? Who's fighting for you? For too long, we've watched costs rise while wages stay the same. We've seen corporate landlords and grocery giants squeeze every last dollar out of hardworking Canadians. And we've seen politicians make promises only to protect the same systems that got us here. I'm running because I believe we deserve better. I will fight for real solutions: affordable housing, lower grocery prices, and a government that works for people, not corporate lobbyists. The NDP has a big plan to tackle the cost of living crisis and put power back into the hands of Canadians. This is our chance to demand better. If you're tired of inaction and broken promises, I ask for your support. Let's build a future where families can thrive, where work pays off, and where no one is left behind. It's time for change, and together we can make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. To run for office, it takes personal and financial investment, time away from family and friends, to put your vision for your community first. And I personally thank all of you, as democracy only exists with participation and options. Thanks for watching.